This stunning video, now crucial evidence, capturing an F-35 fighter jet in free fall before slamming to Earth. The pilot at Eielson Air Force Base witnessing the fireball from a parachute after ejecting seconds earlier.
July 30th, 2025, a $196.5 million F-35 fighter jet becomes a burning wreck in California. The pilot escapes, but here's what nobody's talking about. He was on the phone with engineers for 50 minutes before ejecting. This wasn't mechanical failure. This was something far worse. 2 F-35 crashes in 8 months. But wait, there's something the military doesn't want you connecting. January 28th, Alaska, an F-35A goes down at Eielson Air Force Base. July 30th, California, an F-35C crashes near Naval Air Station Lemoore. Different aircraft, different locations, but the same terrifying commonality. Both pilots were desperately calling for help before their multi-million-dollar jets became scrap metal. Here's where it gets disturbing. The Alaska incident? That pilot spent 50 minutes on the phone with Lockheed Martin engineers before finally pulling the ejection handle. 50 minutes of a trained military aviator unable to fix problems that should be routine. What kind of fighter jet requires a customer service call to stay airborne? But I'm getting ahead of myself. There's something even more shocking I need to show you, and it involves 15 crashed F-35s and a pattern that'll make your blood boil. Remember when the F-35 was supposed to revolutionize warfare? The Pentagon promised a versatile, affordable fighter that would serve for decades. That promise is now a $2 trillion lie. Yes, trillion with a T. The original sustainment cost was $1.1 trillion in 2018. By 2023, $1.58 trillion. That's a 44% increase in 5 years. We're not talking about inflation adjustments or minor overruns. This is systematic financial catastrophe disguised as defense spending. Every single F-35 cost taxpayers $196.5 million. We know this exact figure because it's what the military reported as lost in that California crash. For context, that's enough money to pay 100 teachers for an entire year. One crashed jet equals a century of education funding. The international allies are getting nervous too. Canada's F-35 purchase has ballooned to an $8 billion overrun. NATO partners are quietly questioning whether they're investing in America's most expensive mistake. But here's what's really keeping defense contractors awake at night, and it's not the money. The F-35 was designed to be mission ready 80% of the time. Reality? A pathetic 55.7% mission capable rate. More than 4 out of 10 F-35s can't fly when needed. Let that sink in. We've spent more money than most countries' entire GDP on jets that work barely half the time. Break it down by variant and it gets worse. The F-35A manages just 51.5% readiness. The F-35B hits 54%. The F-35C reaches 58%. These aren't acceptable failure rates for a toaster, let alone America's primary fighter aircraft. Here's the twist nobody saw coming. Forward-deployed F-35s actually achieve over 80% readiness rates. The jets work fine when lives depend on them. It's the training aircraft, the ones supposed to prepare our pilots, that consistently fail. We're teaching pilots to fly unreliable machines with even more unreliable backup aircraft. Why? Spare parts shortages, insufficient depot capacity, repair material delays. The most advanced fighter in history can't get basic maintenance supplies. But there's something even more troubling about these crashes. Something that reveals a fundamental design flaw. 15 F-35 crashes since operational deployment. That's 15 aircraft worth nearly $3 billion in hardware alone, not counting the ripple effects I'll reveal in a moment. Let me walk you through 2024 and 2025's greatest hits. May 28th, 2024, F-35B developmental crash at Kirtland Air Force Base, New Mexico. Pilot injured, cause still under investigation. Military speak for we have no idea what went wrong. January 28th, 2025, that Alaska incident I mentioned. Here's what really happened. Hydraulic fluid contaminated by water that froze in the landing gear. Sounds technical until you realize this means basic weather defeated a $200 million aircraft. The pilot recognized the problem but couldn't solve it without engineering support. 50 minutes of desperation followed by ejection. July 30th, 2025. The California crash involving VFA-125 Rough Raiders Training Squadron. Pattern recognition alert, multiple incidents involve training units. We're not just losing aircraft, we're undermining pilot confidence during the most critical learning phase. But here's what's really terrifying. These crashes aren't random mechanical failures. They're symptoms of aircraft so complex that trained military pilots need real-time engineering consultation for basic operations. When your fighter jet requires customer support during combat scenarios, you don't have a weapon, you have an expensive liability. Every F-35 crash creates 3 catastrophic ripple effects that military leadership doesn't want discussed publicly. Financial hemorrhaging comes first. $196.5 million per aircraft sounds abstract until you compare it to your local school district's annual budget, your city's infrastructure spending, or your state's healthcare allocation. We're burning the equivalent of small-town economies every time an F-35 hits the ground. Military readiness collapse follows second. With 55% availability rates, squadron commanders can't plan reliable operations. Imagine calling your car mechanic more often than driving to work. That's the F-35 experience for combat units. Pilots lose confidence when their primary aircraft requires constant babysitting. International relations damage strikes third. Allied nations invested in F-35 partnerships based on American promises of reliability and performance. Every crash, every readiness failure, every maintenance nightmare undermines America's credibility as a defense partner. Canada's $8 billion overrun isn't just a budget problem, it's a trust problem. There's also something nobody's calculating: opportunity cost. Every dollar spent fixing F-35 problems is a dollar not spent on proven alternatives, pilot training, or actual combat readiness. We're robbing military effectiveness to fund contractor profits. But I promised you something that would make your blood boil. Here it is. The F-35 program represents the largest defense acquisition failure in American history, and nobody's being held accountable. Not the contractors collecting billions in cost overruns, not the Pentagon officials approving budget increases, not the politicians defending an obviously broken system. What needs immediate action? Enhanced quality control to prevent hydraulic contamination, improved cold weather operations procedures, most critically, reduced pilot dependency on real-time engineering support. Military aviators shouldn't need customer service calls to keep their aircraft functioning. Systemic reform requires congressional intervention, independent program review, alternative aircraft evaluation, and clear success metrics with enforcement mechanisms. The current system rewards failure with additional funding. It's corporate welfare disguised as national defense. Here's the uncomfortable truth: the F-35 program is too politically connected to fail and too expensive to succeed. Lockheed Martin has defense contracts in nearly every congressional district. Canceling the program threatens jobs, campaign contributions, and political careers. So instead, we get incrementally worse performance for exponentially higher costs. Meanwhile, pilots keep making emergency phone calls to engineers. Jets keep crashing. Taxpayers keep funding failure. And America's air superiority advantage continues eroding with every $200 million pile of wreckage. The ultimate question isn't technical, it's political. At what point does too big to fail become too expensive to continue? 2 crashes in 8 months, 15 total failures, $2 trillion in lifetime costs for 55% reliability. The F-35 isn't just broken, it's breaking our military readiness and your wallet. Every crash represents choices: fund teacher salaries or replace destroyed jets, invest in proven alternatives, or continue this expensive experiment. Your representatives need to hear from you. Comment below if you're tired of funding failure. Share this investigation with someone who needs to know the truth. Subscribe and hit that notification bell, because this story isn't over, and the next crash is probably already being planned by physics and poor engineering.